My name's Cindy Fay. Hello, hello. I'm from the League of Women Voters of Wilmette is my local, and the League of Women Voters of Illinois Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is the host for tonight. My co-host is Shauna. Shauna, hello. You want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. So delighted that you all are here. My name is Shauna Martell, and I am thrilled to join Cindy on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And I'm from the League of Women Voters of Wheaton.
Fantastic. Good, good. So, this is Women's History Month, as we all know, and I'm so excited and thrilled to bring you a panel of esteemed and accomplished women leaders who are within and apologetically in favor of public education. Before we begin the panel in earnest, I'm going to have Shauna begin with a land acknowledgement.
Here in Illinois, we sit on the traditional homelands of the people of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa, as well as the Menominee, Miami, and Ho-Chunk nations. Illinois has served as a site of trade, travel, gathering, and healing for more than a dozen other Native tribes and is still home to over 100,000 tribal members. And I did want to reiterate that this webinar is being taped this evening, and we would appreciate it if you would put your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Our three honored guests are leaders in their field. Originally scheduled on the programming for this webinar tonight was that Albert Shan would be a visitor. He had a conflict tonight. He's my colleague, but we are delighted to have in his place Grace Pai, the Executive Director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice Chicago. Also joining us is Veronica Arreola from the University of Illinois, Chicago, and Myiti Sengstacke-Rice, the CEO of the Chicago Defenders Charities. Our topic tonight is the good work of our three panelists, advancing the connection between democracy and education, and how their work aligns with our league position on public education. As you know, how the league works is that we come to consensus on positions. We are nonpartisan. We do not support particular candidates, but we do have policy positions. And our public education position includes the claim that a quality public education is essential for a strong, viable, and sustainable democratic society and is a civil right. So let's start a conversation with Myiti Sengstacke-Rice. Myiti's an activist, a writer, and the CEO of the Chicago Defender Charities, which produces the annual Bud Billiken Parade, now in its 96th year, the largest African American parade in the nation, and a Chicagoland institution to
Wow.
welcome children back to school and offer support to their families. Her
Yes.
own writing has included the book Chicago Defender about her great grand uncle's founding of the storied newspaper Chicago Defender, the award-winning magazine Uptown and Bronzeville Life, and contributions to Black Enterprise, Essence, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. She has also most recently been featured in Henry Louis Gates' PBS documentary, Great Migrations of People on the Move. It's fantastic to see you in that. Welcome, 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 Myiti.
You.
We
Thank
are
you.
honored as a
Mhm.
league to march in the Bud Billiken Parade this August. This
Yes,
August,
I'm
yay!
excited about that. I'm so
Yes.
glad you guys will be a part of it.
Can you tell us about your plans for the parade this year?
Oh, yes. So we are 96 years in, which I'm like amazed every time I say it that we even survived this long and we're 4 years from 100. So I'm really grateful for that. And I think that the reason for that is because of organizations like yours who realize the importance of just keeping this culture and tradition alive and how we invest back into our youth because they're the ones they're our future. They're the reasons why we're here and doing the work we do, the hard work that we do. And so with that said, that's why the Chicago Defender slash really the Bud Billiken Parade and festival is here for as long as it's been here. And yeah, so grateful.
Oh, that's so great. So,
Mhm.
the parade is like such a source of joy, and it's also demonstrates the valuing of education in Chicago's Black and African American communities. So I was doing a little dig into the parade. This will be my first time the parade, and, but last year you had a mini job fair
Yeah.
and wellness programs.
Mhm.
And there was a civic pavilion, which I hope that we might have some league members, like maybe registering people to vote,
Yes.
so like that. So, uh, what are
Yeah.
your ideas about how the league can better collaborate with
I'm
events like yours to drive voter registration and civic education?
I'm really excited about that because I think that it's a civic engagement, education for youth is extremely important. So I think that the your league can definitely contribute to an overarching like pavilion, civic engagement pavilion with the youth where we can really teach them policy, understanding how our government works. You know, they're constantly getting all kinds of news, some real, some fake, biased, unbiased. We don't know, you know, media literacy is extremely important in this case. And in order for them to get really truly engaged in our community so that they can be our next leaders of tomorrow, you know, collaborating with, you know, your league would be huge. And then also having different policymakers come together to talk to the youth would be huge. And they're all going to be there. I mean, from the governor to the mayor to all the state reps, they're there. They make sure that it is a priority on their calendars, no matter what. I mean, I get personal calls from major politicians. I'm not saying exact names, but they will literally call my cell phone and say, if they miss a parade, they call me to say, I apologize, something came up. That's how serious it is.
Yeah.
They clear their calendars. And it is August 9th, always the second Saturday in August. But I am excited to, you know, this is the time where we can work with the League of Women Voters and other organizations, civic organizations, and our politicians, our policymakers, to come up with some ideas that we can bring the youth together that lead up to the parade, so we can do a summer. What I'm thinking of is a summer program that we can implement that will prepare them, and the culminating piece of it will be at the parade, and we'll have coverage from our media organizations that can talk about what was done over the summer and how these kids, you know, coming up with programming and things like that, and then showcasing that around the parade and festival. So that's what I'm thinking of when it comes to us working together and collaborating. I think it would be exciting.
I do too. I do
And
too.
I just want to say something else. So this is more than a parade. It's more than marching down King Drives. As you can, from what I just told you, it's all about organizations like yours, like ours, coming together. There's so many that, like the Obama Foundation, the Safer Foundation, all these different organizations working together um, to galvanize our youth, to really help support them and give them resources so that they can be our next leaders of tomorrow. And so that's what the Bud Billiken is about. It's really a movement. And so, and that's why we've been around for as long as we have, because there's advocacy with it, there's purpose with what we do. And so that's why I'm so excited about you guys being a part of it.
I'm so excited too. I'm so excited too. I love I love your ideas.
Mhm.
The league already, the state league has in existence a task force for mis and disinformation, to counter mis and disinformation, which is just
Good.
which we are hoping to work together with the diversity, equity, and inclusion committees to work those together, because there is so much disinformation going out there right
Yeah.
now about
Okay.
DEI and so forth. So it seems like it's a perfect. We already have them set. That task force is already set. We can work together.
I'm
We can.
so
I don't want. I
glad.
don't want to. I don't want to promise. Make a promise for someone else. But I know that our committee is very eager.
That
Good.
would be wonderful, and exciting, and we can definitely talk very soon about, you know, we'll get our
Excellent.
teams together to work on it. Yeah.
All right, rock star, rock star. Okay, those of us who are teachers are like summertime.
You know what I
Good.
mean? Yes.
Yes, yes, I do. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And I want to invite the league members who are on the call. Please watch your email for the news you can use newsletter about signing up to join the league when we march in Bud Billiken the second Saturday of August. Okay. Myiti, we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Yes, we'll come back to you with questions. Please put, we have questions in the chat. Oh,
Mhm.
Shauna, is there a question?
Yeah, I think we're gonna save this one for one of our later panelists.
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent. Okay, got it. Boom. And Myiti, I'm going to have you hold on. Next, we're going to hear from Veronica Arreola. She's my friend from the Mom Vlogs. It's been like a couple of decades, I think, Veronica. A researcher, author, academic, and activist. She has served as the inaugural director of Hispanic Serving Institution Initiatives at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and as the founding director of UIC's Latinx in Science program. She directed UIC's Women in Science Engineering program, which was recognized in 2011 by the White House with the Presidential Award for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, and Engineering Mentoring. Congratulations for that. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, USA Today, and NPR, among others places, in feminist anthologies such as Love Her, Love Her Not, The Hillary Paradox. And she's authored a children's book, which I've got right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's called J for Justice, an Activism Alphabet book. It's really great. And Veronica was elected to serve as a district counselor for Chicago's 24th Police District in 2023. Congratulations. How are you? It's so good to see you.
I'm good. I'm
Good,
good.
good.
Great to thanks for having me.
Okay, so today we want to focus. There's so much we can talk about, mommy blogging and so on, and writing. But today we want to talk about the connection between education and democracy. So, how about this one? How does the underrepresentation of Latinas and Latinx students in higher ed, STEM we know stands for science, tech, engineering, math, affect innovation and research?
It's a great question. The underrepresentation of any group, but particularly right now we're talking about Latinas in STEM means we're losing their lived experiences in the innovation process. So when we think about trying to solve a problem anytime, the more voices we have around a table to solve that problem, it just gets us to the answer that much quicker. So like a great example I have is we have a lot of students who come to UIC who want to be doctors and want to solve things like diabetes. And they come in and they think, oh, I want to do this because my Walita has it, and everyone says we eat poorly, we as a Latino community. And then I ask them questions about like, where's your fresh fruit? Where's your fresh vegetables? Let's map it. Think about where that is and how much free space you have in your park, safe space in your parks to walk and exercise, and then help them build this like more complex picture of what it means to address diabetes in the Latino community.
Yeah, yeah. Representation matters.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
deeply, deeply. My next question is about the role of mentorship and community support and how those play in empowering Latina students to engage in civic life.
It's really key for them to um, I've built mentoring programs for students, particularly Latina students, women students, to feel at home on campus, because once you start to feel at home and comfortable, then you can like relax and grow into that space like a a cozy plant. And you feed it with water and sunlight and all that talking you do to plants. And mentoring does very much the same thing. And so getting them connected to UIC and the community, their campus, and they start to pay attention to all the other things that are happening that are outside of their classroom, the community building, what's happening in the cultural centers, the student organizations. And then UIC is very connected to the community. So we do encourage students to get out in the community and do things. I've had students who have worked in Little Village and the clinics, food pantries, all of those sorts of things, so they can get a larger scale of what they're working on in terms of their classes in a worldview.
Beautiful, beautiful. I was just there the other day. I was just dropped my daughter off at the train station, went to Pilsen for some vegan tamales, really, really
Oh,
good. Yeah,
okay.
really, really good. And the campus was campus. It's just a wonderful, vibrant, campus.
Mm.
So the league, how
Yes.
can the league help advocate for more inclusive higher education policies, in your opinion?
In my opinion, like just what's going on right now in terms of all the things that are happening in higher ed and in our world, our country. I think what the league can do is just always be that strong voice for one, public education, and two, inclusive public education. Going back to that representation matters and making sure that those of us who work in higher ed aren't the only voices advocating for us.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, and tell us about your work that you're working on right now, because this is new about the district counselor. I didn't tell us about that.
So yeah, it's a couple of years old. So this is Chicago's way of bringing the public voice into how it frames public safety and works on police accountability. And so each police district has 3 elected community members on this council, and our job is to be the liaison. And so we hold monthly meetings in order to get community members, our neighbors, feedback on what's happening, what they'd like to see, to happen and change, and talk about the links between public safety and police accountability.
We have to have a whole webinar about that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you, thank you. Okay, and questions for Shauna? Any questions for Veronica right now?
Not right now.
Okay, we'll have questions at the end. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it on to Shauna and to talk with Ms. Pai.
Sorry, just Zoom choreography, such as it is.
Good job, Shauna.
There we go.
You're awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Grace. We really appreciate it. Grace Pai is the Executive Director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice Chicago, leading strategy for issue-based campaigns and power building. With a decade of organizing for racial, economic, and immigrant justice in Chicago, she's trained hundreds of organizers nationwide. In 2021, she spearheaded the TEACH Act, Teaching Equitable Asian American Community History, making Illinois the first state to mandate Asian American history in public schools. She is a 2021 Leaders for a New Chicago awardee and a 2024 Leadership Greater Chicago Fellow. And we could not be more thrilled that she is joining us tonight. So maybe you could start, could you just tell us about the TEACH Act, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. So the TEACH Act amends the Illinois School Code to require a unit of Asian American history to be taught in all public schools. We passed this bill in 2021 in the wake of the rise in anti-Asian racism and violence that happened, in part due to the scapegoating of the Asian American community by the presidential administration at the time, one that, is back now. But I think COVID really created a crisis moment, and it created an opportunity for our state legislators to say, hey, we want to do something about Asian American racism, and to look at education as an opportunity to combat that, so that future generations and young people can get the full picture of American history, right? To not teach it one-sided, but to ensure that all young people have a full appreciation for all of the different marginalized communities that have contributed to our society, and to have an understanding of the trials and tribulations that communities have often gone through also, right, and persevered through, been resilient to. So it's been a few years since the TEACH Act passed. It went into effect in the 2022-2023 school year. And, one of the things I will readily admit is that implementation has been a big challenge. The way that school mandates are overseen in Illinois is, not very strong, I'll say, right? There are lots of different mandates about what's supposed to be taught, in public schools, about, even things that schools are supposed to have in their facilities, right? There are all kinds of requirements that are legislated. And it is challenging for a central entity like the Illinois State Board of Education to oversee that, and the way that our State Board of Education is set up is very decentralized. So there are these regional offices of education that all have a certain number of districts in them. But there are, I think, more than 900 school districts across the state. So it's
Right,
quite a lot,
right,
and
right.
it's a big challenge when it comes to, checking compliance and all of that. But I know there was a question earlier about, what is a unit? That's been one of the challenges because a school district gets to decide what a unit is, right? And so there is no sort of universal, oh, you have to teach this many hours, or, you have to teach this many days, anything like that. But the good news is that we really want educators to not treat it as, oh, let me check off 10 hours of instruction on Asian American history. We would much rather that they incorporate Asian American history throughout the year. Anytime you're teaching about American history, about US history, which all schools have to cover, that you're thinking about what stories might be often left out of the telling of US history, and to think about, oh, maybe I can incorporate Asian American history here. Maybe I can incorporate Black history there. Maybe I can incorporate Latina history. There are lots of different stories that are often left out. And so we really want educators to be thinking in a more inclusive manner.
Can you talk to us about some of the barriers that Asian American students face in accessing equitable education? And, how do these challenges affect their participation in our democracy?
One of the big challenges is that there is this, very persistent stereotype of Asian Americans as good students. A lot of people think of Asian Americans as highly educated immigrants, as people who have come to pursue careers in STEM, in healthcare. Like there's that stereotype of, Asian Americans as good at math. And that's exactly what it is. It's a stereotype. It's not truth, right? There's nothing about Asian Americans or about Asians that makes them more predisposed to math and science. The reason why these stereotypes have persisted for so long is because the United States intentionally excluded Asian immigrants through our immigration policy for many decades, and then finally started to be a little less racist in our policy and started to open up immigration from Asia in the 1960s. And one of the ways that they opened up immigration was to create visas for people who were needed, for workers that were needed in certain fields, right? In certain careers, right? Certain industries. And as we all know, like the tech industry has been recruiting heavily, and healthcare had some needs as well. And so that's part of why we see a higher prevalence of Asian Americans, in healthcare or tech or in math and science, et cetera. But there's nothing innate about Asian Americans that makes them predisposed. But if you are a teacher who thinks, who just lives in the society that we live in, right, and we all have our own prejudices and biases, right, that we have learned, then you might not pay attention to how your Asian American students are doing. Right? You might overlook a student who actually is struggling. You might think, oh, their parents can help them at home, but not realize that that student is from a refugee background. Their family came here with next to nothing, right? So those perceptions can really contribute to the invisibility of Asian American student struggles. And then similarly, like a lot of Asian American young people report not feeling belonging. So if you are feeling like an other in your classroom, and then on top of it, nothing that you're taught touches on your community, that's only going to make you feel more othered, right? And when you feel like an other, you might not feel motivated to participate in civic processes. You might not feel motivated to vote in your elections, right? And so then we see that trickle down effect, and there are many Asian Americans who are eligible to vote who don't. And that is part of the problem that Asian Americans Advancing Justice Chicago is trying to solve.
I also know that you had a pretty exciting and busy day today. You were joining with some other groups in a press conference. So how can the League, we're a nonpartisan educational organization and advocacy group. How can we work to to encourage democracy, participation, voting rights, ensuring accountability at all levels of government, and partner with AAJ in social policy work?
Absolutely. Yeah, we welcome partnership with all groups, right? You don't have to be Asian American to have an interest in making our society a better place, a more inclusive place. And so, one opportunity that I want to highlight is our poll watching program. So every election, we send out a set of volunteers who are trained to various polling places all across Cook County. Right now we're limited to Cook County. I know the league spans, the whole state. But, certainly one of the things that we look for is language accessibility. One of the kind of special things, amazing things about the Asian American community is our language diversity. There are dozens of languages spoken within the Asian American community. And, people take a lot of pride in preserving, right, like their language spoken at home and passing that down to their kids. But language can also be a barrier, right? And just because you have lived here a long time, maybe you can navigate the grocery store, or you can navigate, your day-to-day life in English. It doesn't mean that you understand all of the complex language that sometimes is on our ballots in your second or maybe even third language, right? And so when we have things like complicated ballot referenda, for example, or new races like the district councils, the police district councils that Veronica was talking about, or the Chicago School Board, for example, you might be overwhelmed, right, by having to navigate all of that in a language that is not your native tongue. So thankfully, there are federal laws and local laws in place to ensure language access. So the Federal Voting Rights Act requires that certain counties and precincts, even at the data analysis happens at the precinct level, certain precincts that have high numbers of people who speak other languages other than English are required to have translated ballots. They're required to have bilingual poll workers. Cook County passed additional policy, the Cook County language or the Cook County Vote Ordinance, which stands for Voting Opportunity and Translation Equity. That's from a few years ago, and that expands the number of languages that ballots in Cook County have to be translated into. We go and check, are these polling places doing what they're supposed to do? Are these election judges where they're supposed to be, right? Are they bilingual? Are they wearing their name badges that say, I speak Hindi or I speak Korean? And then we write a report and we share that with the boards of elections or for the Cook County clerk. And we say, hey, here are some areas for improvement, and how can we work together? So we'd love to partner, on that, signing up to be a volunteer poll watcher with us. We provide training and all of that. And then on the advocacy front, of course, there are a lot of policies that could be strengthened in Illinois to make us a more welcoming place for immigrants, to expand language access across government, to expand voting rights, right? Fortunately, we have a lot of protections for voters, but every day we see a new attack, right? So how can we make it easier, than ever to vote? How do we bring down those barriers? As part of our, Springfield advocacy, we do an annual Lobby Day, Asian American Action Day, which is April 30th of this year. And we're also a member of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, which does a monthly Lobby Day. So anytime league members are in Springfield, definitely would love to work together.
If folks are interested in participating in the poll watching, is there a way for them to let you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually in the lead up to an election, and we're not unfortunately doing poll watching for the upcoming suburban elections, but for the primary in 2026 and the November election that year, we will put stuff out on our social media as we get closer, to that time. And you can always check our social media or check our website, and we'll have information on how to sign up.
Cindy, I'm going to bring all of our panelists into
Yes.
Spotlight, and I'm going to hope that I'm encouraging everyone. Oh, I'm going to hit the wrong button first.
I have a round robin question,
Okay, wonderful.
if that's okay. I'd like everyone to answer this, if you don't mind. And then I have a specific question for what Grace was just talking about. So, somebody help me. Who was the feminist who said that we bread and roses? Bread and roses. Well, give us bread for sustenance, but I also want to have roses. It's an old adage. Do we all know this? Anyway, I'm going to go look up after. But what I want to hear from you is your bread and your rose. Because usually we talk about, like, when I'm around the dinner table with my girls and my hubby, we talk about what was your rose and thorn for the day. And we're in a thorny kind of times these days. So let's talk about bread and roses. What sustains you? What's your bread that sustains you? And what's the rose? What's your joy that you anticipate? What's a joy that you anticipate that's okay? What sustains you in your good work, and what brings you joy, or what are you looking forward to that will bring you joy? Make sense? Okay, chime in. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I mean, my friends and my chosen family sustain me. Like I can't get through anything without everybody and in my life who bring me joy. So
Yeah. Community, right? It's
yeah,
like she's
community.
saying, it's community. We can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for organizations, even like yours saying, oh, we want to come and be a part and contribute and invest in the youth, like there would be no 96 years of what we do. Um, and so that's what sustains us, that everyone wants to come back year after year. If literally I was like, if I said this year we're not going to have a parade, you know what those kids will do? They'll go outside. No, seriously, they'll cry first, but then they'll go outside and they'll still march. I'm not kidding. When COVID happened, they did not care. They were like, we're going outside and we're going to march. We're not playing. And they are serious about this parade. It means a lot to them because it gives them something to do. And we use the kind of like this, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like not a mantra, but dancing saves lives. And it makes sense because by these performing arts leagues, the students having something to do that keeps them busy year round. It keeps them off the street. It keeps them going. They have their directors actually keep up with it, and we do keep up with their schoolwork to make sure that their grades are B and higher. Those are requirements. There's like one particular dance team called the Geek Squad. These kids are all A students, and they're so cute, but they're really into what they do. It's a lot deeper than, like I said, just marching down the street. There's a lot that goes into it that people don't even know, that really we're raising up a whole generation, which is very powerful. But yeah, that's what sustains us. And so I think, though, you said the rose part of it,
So a
um,
joy in the future that you're looking forward
in the
to.
future. Yeah, that's what sustains us too. Um, we're 4 years from 100, so I'm excited to continue to tell the stories. There's so many stories out of when you have 100 years, you have 100 years of stories of generations of people that can tell their story and how they are part of this and what it's done to change their lives. I met a guy yesterday. He showed me a picture of him being the king, because we have a royal court. So you get to be king, queen, prince, princess in the parade, like ages 11 to 14. He was the king in 1974, and he had the picture in his phone.
Of course.
And his friend made a joke and said, that's his pickup line. He says, hey, I was the king in the parade in 1974. And he actually showed me the picture.
Oh,
I was like, oh my God, when he was a kid. And then he was 14. And then they got to go to Disneyland because we used to send them to Disneyland. We got to make that happen again. It
love it.
hasn't happened lately.
Love
But
that. Love
I
that.
love it. I was
So great.
I thought I love the story of that it started with like bicycles. Like the
yeah.
kids are riding by. Oh, I just pictured them decorated, when you used to put
Yeah,
do you ever put like what's that stuff you put, that stuff you hang you hang
yeah,
crepe paper like in between the spokes.
that's
Ah!
it. That's what they did. And they decorated their bikes and they went out and they were like, everybody come join the parade. And that's how it started. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's amazing.
And bigger.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
awesome.
Um, yeah, I avoided the thorns question because I know you've got a lot of challenges and you are overcoming. Because
Yes,
gosh, I can't even imagine
I know.
the logistics.
Okay.
Power
Like
these
I
things.
pray through the day, like, Lord, okay, please, everything work out. No, I'm not even gonna say the natural disasters or anything that could
Mm-mm,
possibly happen. We're not gonna talk about that. All good
mm-mm,
things.
mm-mm,
We just
mm-mm.
pray throughout the day. Like, okay.
Yes.
So when like 3 o'clock hits, I'm like, okay, all right, all right. made it. I think we made it.
Do you sleep the night before?
Oh my God, nobody does. We're out there at 4 a.m. making sure they're putting the porta potties where they're supposed to go and all of that. It's really interesting, but yeah.
Blessings and strength.
Thank
Blessings and
you.
strength. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We're gonna be there for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Grace, Grace, can you?
Yes, yes. Well, I'll start with my rose, my joy, is it's looking forward to summertime shy. The summer in
Yeah.
Chicago is
Mhm.
just
The
such a
best.
rejuvenating time, on a day like today where I'm like, wasn't it just 60 degrees a week ago? But now we're back to freezing cold weather. Just like today, I really need that reminder that summer is coming. The sunshine, the lakefront, just the people out and about, right? Really feeling that buzz of energy where people are, happy that we have this time of year. I'm really looking forward to that. And that's what, keeps me going. But, on the day to day, I have to echo Myiti and Veronica and say it's community that gets you through. Like the work that we all do, it's not easy work. And, you have to have people that you can lean on who understand, the challenges and who are committed, to the vision that you have. And I think that finding community in that is really powerful and really motivating.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I have a question about like the new you all work with young people. Y'all work with young people, and like I don't want to say trends or philosophies. There's that Gen X thing, the Gen thing, the generations thing. I don't get it. I don't know what they are. I guess I'm a boomer, but what do you see? What do you see from young people coming up? What do you anticipate from them moving forward in this time of more challenges? I mean, we've got climate change happening. We've got, a lot of unsureness, of what's happening. What do you see from the young people that you work with these days about the future?
I don't work with a lot of young people anymore, but the ones I do work with, I feel like they just have zero patience for excuses. They want to get things done, and they're going to figure out a way to get it done. And they're going to figure out who can get things done and who they need to work with. Um, so yeah, it's I think a little Gen X anger, with a little, but yeah, I think that they don't have any patience, and they're not gonna settle.
That's because everyone has ADD now.
It's true.
Who doesn't have ADD? It's like everything's so fast. It's quite, I think I have it.
True.
I don't know if I'm diagnosed. I'm not officially diagnosed, but it's like everything's so fast in our face. Like who can think anymore?
It's true.
Well, and I think that's the upside, right, Veronica? It's like,
Yeah.
like we should have less patience for, I mean, I think of, um, I know this is a nonpartisan space, but I'm talking about things in the past, right? We look at what happened with Biden, right? Like there was a time to move on. And I think that's part of the urgency that I sense from young people, right? Is this like impatience with the status quo that actually like really moves us, towards sort of that next iteration of whatever it is, that next generation of leadership. And I mean, there have been all these headlines lately of about AOC and what is her role, and I'm excited, I think, by the boldness that I see from young people. Certainly, it's kind of one of those things I feel like that has been true throughout generations, right? That young people are always kind of at the leading edge, challenging kind of what's considered acceptable, what's considered professional, all of that. Even in the workplace, right? We see young people really leading the charge on that. So
Yeah, I mean, the young people, in some ways, like we're 5 years from when the pandemic started. So this is a very formative time. And at the very beginning, at least for the first year of the pandemic, if they weren't going stir crazy, um, they saw communities coming out and they saw what transformation can happen when neighbors come together. And then that just quickly fell. And then also with the racial justice conversations, all of these things were happening, and then it just fell apart. And so, and I feel like the young people I know are having none of that. They're upset about that. They're not taking that as like this is how things have to be, because they remember how things were. We had this one bit of moment where it really looked like we were turning a corner, and we just spun around and kept going in the same direction.
Right.
I love this line of it. I love two things about, like, maybe lack of patience can be a really good thing. Lack of patience can be a good thing. And ADHD can be a good thing. So the
And
league,
maybe we're back to advocacy again,
yes,
where we used to fight, like, I mean, I wasn't born in the 60s or anything, but, they had to. And it looks like we're getting back to that where it's like, okay, because and you kind of look at like if these things aren't happening, they would just think everything is easy and you know what I mean? It's forcing them to be more civically engaged as we're even talking about.
amen.
That
Amen.
that could actually be a good thing in disguise. Like even though everything is crazy, like oh my God, every day, every second we're getting news about something and I'm like, oh God, what does this mean? But then it's forcing that next generation to like fight, and stand up.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what we need from them,
Amen.
for them to be
Amen.
tough. We don't
Amen.
want them to be like, yeah, just everything's easy peasy and just like riding on the backs of those that fought before, but like to actually be those next leaders that rise up.
Mm-hmm. The league has a Shauna and I met with hi Shauna, you can join. You're in a tiny little box on the top. So she's okay, I have you there. So Shauna's way up in the box, and she and I met with a 17-year-old from the league. And then her so one was coming from Alaska, was zooming in from Alaska. The other was zooming in from Maine. They're part of a youth advocacy group as part of the league, and they're so young, and they're pushing for like pushing suffrage younger, pushing stuff. That's not a league position yet. That we have to go through all these very formal steps about how we come to consensus to adopt but the idea is very
Yeah.
potent. A
Yeah.
16-year-old's voting. I mean, they can drive, and like climate change is going to affect them the most, right? And like I think the speed of change is really increasing. I think kids are learning know more now than they did, like the stuff I was learning in graduate school, like my, high schoolers are getting now, middle schoolers are learning that right now, they're just like happening to. Veronica, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, I have a 21-year-old, and she was very frustrated when she wasn't turning 18 in enough time for like the 2020 election. And they see these things, they see how things, and I felt that way in high school too. I was just like, I see these things impact me. The votes that are happening are going to impact me in my life, not my neighbor who is 90,
Yeah.
for much longer.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
again, the no patience.
I don't have it. I'm losing it. Good. Okay, so this has been so much fun. Can we leave with like one, if we do, if patience is not our if not is not our mantra word, what's the one word moving forward in 2025? What's your one word, your word that you're going to hold dear? I don't have one in mind, but I just know it's not patience. Oh, I've got one. No, my word is hope. I feel very hopeful, especially talking to the three of you. Hope. I really, people call it hopium when it was Obama time, but it's like I eat it up with a spoon. So give us your word.
I've got mine. I'll share resilience.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're gonna. Anyone else have any we have any comments in the chat? No. Oh, we have a very quiet audience tonight. That's okay. That's okay.
Well,
All
I
right.
want to hear Myiti and Veronica's words.
Oh yeah. I thought
I
we were
mean, honestly, I love hope and resilience. Those
Yeah.
are good. Those are good. I mean, because really, literally, that's all I got to hold on to right now.
Connections. So it's more than
Mhm.
community, but
Yeah.
connecting people, connecting ideas. Um, I think that, a lot of people talk about how this country is really divided, but I think that we can see here in this space and within the league and the things that we're doing are very much connected, and understanding that my peace, my peace, my justice relies on you all having peace and justice. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. I can't. I love that. I love that. And I think that's going to be it. I love that as our final parting line. Okay, Myiti, Veronica, Grace, thank you so much for your insights tonight. Thank you for furthering the democratic ideal of well-informed, discerning, and critically thinking young citizens. We have so much reason for hope and resilience and connection from tonight in these difficult times. And audience, thank you all for your attention. I appreciate you. Love you, love you. This event will be recorded if in case any of you want to share this with your friends or fellow league members. So thank you all so much. Shauna, thank you. Love you, girl. Up in your you're in a little box at the top. You're like the stage director at the back. And God bless you all. Thank you all so
Thank you,
much.
God. Thank
Good
you
night.
all.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.
Good
Thank you all.
night.
Thank you all. Good night.